Welcome to week 29's tech and productivity update. We got quite a few news stories to cover this week. First off, on the 13th, Waze adds personalized navigation using Gemini. So what that means is we now get personalized routes based on your previous trips and preferences. So if you don't like the route that it's giving you and you start to customize it using this new Gemini model inside of Waze, we're going to see those routes start to learn over time your preferences. Maybe you like to avoid highways or stick to smaller streets, whatever the case may be. So now it's going to be a bit more personalized when it recommends new routes to you. We also get less chatty navigation mode, plus conversational searching using natural language. So if you've used the latest update to the Google Maps application, you're going to be familiar with this. There's a button that lets you talk to Gemini and ask things like, where's the nearest coffee place or whatever. And so you don't have to know the name of the place. It uses the new AI models to figure out what you're trying to say and then recommends some places for you. So now that's also coming to Waze. The less chatty navigation mode, it's kind of like the settings that you have in Google Maps where you can have it only speak the most important parts of the directions and not give you so many heads up about things on the road. We also get conversational reporting. So that's also going to let you use Gemini again to verbally report incidents on the road and suggest map changes without having to actually tap the app. Lastly, we also get motorcycle mode, which features optimized routes, ETAs, and warnings about rider-specific hazards. This is first rolling out to Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Malaysia, Mexico, Peru, and the Philippines. And these other features, which are not motorcycle mode, should be rolling out very, very soon. I think they're already rolling out, so over the next couple of days, they should be available. And here's what that looks like. We have a new motorcycle option. It's going to give us a different route, optimized for motorcycle riders. Here's that less chatty option under the voice guidance settings. And here's an example of what being able to report things on the road using just voice is going to look like. Next up, on the 13th, Todoist retires their goals beta feature. So that removes the goals tab and all existing goals if you happen to use Todoist and we're using that feature. Todoist claims it just was not simple or powerful enough to keep inside the application. So that's why they're removing it and they're replacing it with the recommended thing that you do, which is project descriptions, which is a new thing, and project insights. So you should be using that instead. On the 16th, Google announced that NotebookLM now becomes Gemini Notebook. New name, same notebook, but we also get some additional features. So each notebook now gets a secure cloud computer, which means we can now write and execute code directly from inside the notebook, just giving it that much more power. It's also going to sync with the Gemini app on the mobile devices, and you should start to see notebooks that you have on your computer appear in the mobile app very soon. I believe you can already create them from inside the Gemini app, but they don't actually sync, or they didn't sync. Now they should start to actually sync across the different platforms. So it's going to be first available to Ultra subscribers, and I believe that's going to be available right now. Next, it's rolling out to Pro users, and then eventually it'll get to other users. And here's what that looks like. If you've ever used NotebookLM, now Gemini Notebook, you're going to be very familiar with this, with the two tabs that you've got, give you a bunch of preset options, let you select the sources on the left-hand side. Now you're just going to get a little bit more power, especially when it comes to running code or dealing with code. But all of that is going to be based on the context that you upload to it, which is ultimately the most powerful feature of NotebookLM. You could dump a bunch of PDFs or presentations or files or whatever in there, and it would use that as the context. And that just made it really easy for things like research, business intelligence, all that good stuff. On the 16th, 1Password announced 1Password for Claude. So Claude can now sign into sites without needing to see the passwords or two-factor authentication codes. Each credential use does need a biometric approval, and 1Password fills that in directly. Nothing enters Claude's context. Agentic mode also locks down the rest of your vault. So whenever the agent is actually trying to use a password, it locks down everything else other than the designated password that you're trying to give it access to. It's currently only available for Mac right now. But this is not only available just for Claude. Previously, they had released other versions of this update, including one for Codex, but basically each one of these coding platforms has their own version of this. So it doesn't really matter which one you're using, you now have access to it. One thing I would mention about using it myself is that the whole each credential use needing biometric approval is really, really annoying. So if you're someone that likes to just have several agents running at the same time, the fact that each credential use needs biometric approval means you have to be in front of the computer every single time one of your agents needs one of those keys or one of those tokens to do something. So you really want to only keep the most important secure things that you're going to be using the system for inside of 1Password because it gets annoying really, really quickly. So there's probably better options to keep things secure and also give the agents the access and permissions they need. I'm not a big fan of how they're handling it here in 1Pass, but that's definitely an option. And if you don't need to share too many credentials with your AI agents, this is definitely a very secure way to do that. On the 16th, Google announced that Gemini Omni, their Flash model, is coming to Google Vids. So this is supposed to have better text, physics, and realism in the video generation. You can also edit existing videos with a prompt. You can now generate verified personal AI avatars. And this is all going to be unavailable for anyone in the European Economic Area, Switzerland, United Kingdom, Texas, and Illinois at launch because they probably have some legal issues there. But everybody else is going to get access to it. And by everybody else, I mean if you currently have a business plan, an enterprise plan, a Google AI Pro plan, or an Ultra plan. And the rollout is starting July 16th. So as interesting as this might seem, I'm honestly not terribly excited just because Google has such a terrible track record of launching a bunch of these little experiments, most of them just never making it beyond this initial release, kind of languishing there in limbo forever. And then some people actually use it and build workflows with these, and then at some point they're sunset. So yeah, kind of an interesting toy, but I wouldn't really put too much stock into this. I haven't tried it out myself, but definitely worth checking out if you happen to have access to it at this point. On the 16th, Notion added calendar tools to agents, so they just keep rolling out the hits when it comes to the agents. Notion agents can now manage your calendar from chat. They can move meetings, send invites, find available times, schedule links. They can also join calls to take notes. And it is available now on the desktop app, and mobile is coming soon. So if you are using Notion and you're using their agents, now they get more power when it comes to managing your calendar from the chat. And last but not least, on the 17th, Moonshot Labs released Kimi K3, which is their next model after the previous one, Kimi K2.6. So they're calling it the first open 3 trillion parameter class model. It's actually 2.8 trillion parameters, but close enough. It's got a 1 million token context and native vision capabilities. So where the previous model, Kimi K2.6, was really focused on coding and agentic swarms, K3 expands that, adding knowledge work, dashboards, and video editing, something we've seen some of these other frontier models do with their latest releases. And for comparison, Kimi K2.6 was 95 cents per million input tokens, $4 per million output tokens. This new model is actually quite expensive compared to that previous one. It's $3 per million input tokens and $15 per million output tokens. So it's really closing in on some of the more premium frontier models from Anthropic and OpenAI. So it still trails Fable 5 and GPT 5.6 Sol in terms of performance overall, but it's still, even as expensive as it is, only half of Sol's output price. So it's still a bargain model and has a lot of power to boot. Here we've got some of the usual Trust Me Bro benchmarks around terminal use, all kinds of coding things. This is really where the model shines. And as you can see, it's actually performing pretty well compared to some of these brand new models like GPT 5.6 Sol and Fable 5. It's actually performing pretty admirably, especially when you consider the price. They also provided some pretty interesting demos here of different 3D environments that the model was able to generate, including, using a generative terrain and 3D model assets, all kinds of really interesting little projects that Kimi K3 seems to be much better at producing by itself, obviously after various rounds of iterations and so on, but still that a model this inexpensive compared to some of the other ones on the list and the ones that it's really closing in on in terms of coding ability is able to do this effectively is really good. Obviously, the more competition we see in this space, the better it is for consumers because that means these AI labs are really having to push the price down, making it as accessible as possible and not just sitting on their laurels and, expecting that they're going to be able to completely dominate the market because nobody's coming for them. That's definitely not the case, especially with these Chinese labs and now with Kimi K3. And that is it for week 29 of the Tech and Productivity Update. Be sure to like the video and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and so you don't miss out on next week's Tech and Productivity Updates. So until then, I'll see you in the next one.